Hey guys, Angie here with AngieGensler.com, and I want to welcome you to the first ever Freedom Friday. So I'm hopeful that this is the first of many, and I'm kind of kicking off today with a series of interviews that I have lined up with a couple different people. And in Freedom Fridays, I'm going to be talking with successful entrepreneurs who quit their 9-to-5 jobs and built a business and life they love. Now, I have done this myself. I quit my full-time corporate job back in April, and since then I have been focused strictly on building my own business. And the journey is, well, it's exciting, and it's filled with lots of freedom. It's also filled with a lot of overwhelm and fear and doubt and frustration and failure, and there's a lot of trials along the way. And this really began, I was talking with a fellow entrepreneur, and I became friends with a woman named Liz Carter. And I'll put a link below so you can connect with Liz. And Liz and I had both quit our corporate jobs around the same time, and we're trying to build our businesses. And we thought, we were really talking about, like, man, this is hard. And it's when you're going it alone, and sometimes you wonder, like, am I cut out for this? Is this really the life I want? Maybe I should just go back to working a job, and is this crazy? What am I doing? And through our talking, we thought, what? We should really kind of create something that could be support for other people. So we started to put together this online summit. And unfortunately, we both had varying obligations that just made it difficult for us to put on this summit. Well, through that process, I had already lined up a couple different people to speak on the summit. And instead I said, well, we're not going to do the summit, but how about you just come on live and you can just share your story with my audience. So that's what kind of brought about this Freedom Fridays and what's brought it together. So I have interviews lined up for the next couple of weeks with a couple of really amazing entrepreneurs. They quit their corporate jobs and built I think one of them built a 7-figure business, and they are killing it now. So I want to bring their stories to you. And then I thought, well, why not share my own story beforehand? So that's what today is. And that's what I'm kicking off this series of interviews with these successful entrepreneurs who have quit their jobs to create this freedom lifestyle, to create a business that they love. And I want to kick it off and share my own story with you guys. So throughout these interviews, I'm going to be asking different questions, but I also want you guys to ask questions. I would love for you to engage live. So if there's anything on your mind, if you are in your own kind of side hustle story right now, if you're working a 9-to-5 job and you're trying to build your business on your side, or maybe you've recently quit your job, or maybe you've been running your own business for years and years and years, and you just want some support and you want to connect with like-minded people who've done it, to reassure you that yes, you're on the right path. Yes, entrepreneurialism is the right path for you, the right place for you to be going. These will be great for you, but I also want you to engage and ask questions. So if there's something that's been on your heart or on your mind and you just need to connect with a fellow entrepreneur and ask it, please ask it. And I'm talking, we can go anywhere from, how do you handle health insurance? Because I know that's a really big question for a lot of people that are hoping to quit their 9-to-5 jobs to build a business. The biggest question is, what do I do about health insurance? And so you can ask as simple as that, or you can ask, what's your biggest fear with being an entrepreneur? Or how do you handle your fears? What's your morning routine? So whatever questions that you want to ask myself today, and then the other people that I have lined up for interviews in the coming Fridays, feel free to engage live and ask those questions. But I'm going to get it started. I'm going to try and look and see the questions that people are asking. But I'm going to go ahead and just share my story with you. Since I don't have someone interviewing me, I tried to get my husband Trevor to do it, and he said no. So if you're watching, Trevor, I'm calling you out. So I'm going to have to kind of do it on my own here. But let me get started. So I worked in the corporate world. I had a corporate marketing job for over 10 years. And most recently, the company I worked for almost 9 years. And it was an amazing job, an amazing time. And I was able to work my way up the ladder really quickly in this job. And I orchestrated every promotion I got. I would go to my boss and I'd say, hey, I have this vision for what the marketing team should look like for the company. Here's how it should be structured. I think I could lead it. Here's how it should look. And every time he would say, okay, cool, let's do it. And then he would, we'd negotiate the salary and I'd get a great promotion. So that was really, really cool piece about my job. But as my time there continued, I started to feel this deeper calling and I started to lose a lot of my purpose in the job. And I kept feeling like, is what I'm doing, does it matter? Am I making a difference? And the type of work that I was doing, I just didn't feel called to it anymore. And I didn't feel like I was really making a difference in the lives of individual people. And so I just felt this calling to be more, to do something different. And then in July of 2016, a couple different things happened that month. First, we had a leadership team meeting, and I asked the leadership team, I said, hey, while I'm preparing for the 2017 planning year, what things do you want me to start, stop, and continue? And one of the sales leaders looked at me dead serious, and he said, I think you should stop doing social media. I was floored. Here is a sales manager telling their marketing leader, stop doing social media. It is a waste of your time. And that's what he told me. He said, it's a waste of your time. Our customers are not on social media. And I thought to myself, I said, so you mean you're not on social media? Is that what this is about? But that whole experience really taught me that what I truly love to do, and I love to do social media, and I'm good at that and I enjoy it. And it really taught me that, okay, maybe my time here is up. Maybe it's time for me to start thinking about the next step, the next piece of my journey. And then something else happened later that month, which I go into more detail about it on my blog. I'll put a link to my About page. So if you want to read that, there's, let me put that in here. There's a certain photo that I took that almost got me fired. And, it's nothing like really scandalous like you might think. It was pretty harmless, but you can read about that on my About page if you want to hear more about it. But between those two instances that happened in July, that really set me on this path. And Trevor and I started really discussing like, okay, what's the exit strategy? What's the next business that we're going to create? What does this look like? How can I get me out of this corporate role and home with my family? Because what I really wanted more than anything, yes, I wanted purpose in my work. I wanted out of this 9-to-5 job, but more than anything, I wanted freedom. I wanted freedom to do what I want, when I want, where I want. I desperately wanted to travel. I had like this aching feeling to travel a lot more with my family. And I so badly wanted to be able to take my daughter to preschool. And I wanted to be at the bus stop for my son at the end of the day. And I wanted to be able to just go to any of their activities whenever I wanted. Or if it was a gorgeous day outside, I wanted to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to take a couple hours off of work and I'm going to take the kids to the park. I desperately craved that freedom. And so that's why I'm also naming this series Freedom Fridays, because I have a feeling you can probably relate. If you can relate, like if you've craved that freedom for yourself, give me a like, give me a love, a comment, let me know. I'd love to see if you have also really craved that freedom in your own life. But that's really what set me on this path and set me on this journey. And so then Trevor and I worked really hard building the website, coming up with the business model, and we launched angiegensler.com in December of 2016. And I grew it really, really quickly. And I actually used Pinterest and really awesome lead magnets to grow it. And we just had crazy, phenomenal results, like insane page views, over 500 email subscribers those first 30 days. And it was just crazy. And it just set us on this path over the next 20 months where I just kept building the business on the side until I got it to the point where I was able to quit my job in April of 2018. And actually, I want to give you guys a link to a free training that I actually created that talks to you about, and I'll put it in the comments, that talks about specifically how I was able to grow my business so quickly and the strategies that I used to do that. So there's a link there for you in the comments. But, so those 20 months, it was difficult because, I'm working a full-time job. I have 2 young kids. I have a husband. I have friends and family. But I also have this side business that I'm trying to build so that I can quit my full-time job. So there's a few different things that I did to manage it, because I think that's a lot of people when they're thinking about starting a side business, the thought is, how in the world can I possibly do this? Like, how am I supposed to manage both? And I think there's a lot of misinformation online. If you jump on Instagram, you're going to see a million different images about hustle and grind and working nonstop and staying up all night and living on coffee. And I was not at all interested in that. That was not the story that I wanted to create for myself. I wanted to create this story of building it with balance and being able to still have that time with my family and still have the freedom that I wanted while building it. And so I had to find little pockets of time and little hacks. And I actually have a blog post where I share 19 time-saving tricks that will help you. And it's specifically written for people who are building a business while they're still working their full-time job. And let me see if I can find that link. I'll put that in there as well. It's 19 time-saving tips and hacks, but a couple of the things that I did. So I would wake up early. I'm a morning person. So I decided to wake up early in the mornings, and I'd put in 1 to 2 hours of work in the morning before I would then go to my full-time job. And so I would do that. I would work oftentimes over my lunch if I could. If I was traveling, instead of going out to dinner with coworkers, doing karaoke, staying up all night, doing the typical stuff that you do if you're traveling with coworkers, instead I would, be antisocial, and I'd go back to my hotel room and I would work my butt off. I kind of thought, you know what? If I have to be away with my family, I might as well take advantage of this time and make it the most productive use of my time possible. So I would do that while traveling. And then on the weekends, I would get up early and put in a couple hours of work before everyone would wake up. And then when the kids would nap on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, I would have about 2 to 3 hours on Saturdays and Sundays while they were napping. And then occasionally I would put in some time in the evenings. But for the most part, my evenings were always dedicated to my family. And even that, okay, it's not a whole lot of time to build a business, but I was still able to do a lot. And I had Trevor helping. Trevor was doing a lot of behind the scenes technical work. So that was extremely helpful. But, another big thing that I did was I really narrowed my focus, and I was really careful about how I spent my time and what I spent my time doing. So while I was commuting to work, I had a pretty long commute. I would listen to podcasts. I would listen to audiobooks. I would dictate blog posts. I would open up my phone and I would get the voice recorder and I would basically write a blog post, but I would speak it. And then I would send it to Trevor and he would transcribe it for me. We had a really great, super cheap service. I mean, I'm talking maybe 50 cents, 10 cents through VoiceBase. So I would then Trevor would transcribe it for me, send it back to me, and then I could go through and edit it and get it, fine-tuned and get it better. So I would write a lot of blog posts that way. So that was a really great hack. I would do social media engagement through little pockets of time, standing in line, sitting on the toilet. So I would find these little windows of time where, you're really not doing anything anyway, and I would make productive use of those windows of time. So I'm going to put that full link to those, and it's 19 time-saving hacks for you. I'm adding that to the comments as well, so you can read that post and you can kind of read more of what I did to try and manage that time of building my business while still working a full-time job. So I did that for about 20 months. And then, as I said, I finally quit in April of 2018. And that was not an easy decision. Trevor knows all too well. It was filled with lots of tears. It was filled with an immense amount of fear. Trevor was a stay-at-home parent, so I was the sole income provider for our family. And I had an immense amount of fear for, what does this mean? And I also held on to this story of, I am the income provider for my family. And income provide, and I also had the story of, to be the income provider for your family, you have to have a stable job, you have to have stable insurance, you have to be, XYZ, you have to have these things and be these things. And if you don't have those things and you aren't being those things and you're being irresponsible, you are being irrational. I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head, and not that my dad's critical, he's not really this hypercritical person, but for some reason, the critical voice in my head that I heard was my dad. And so I would hear him saying Angie, I didn't raise you to do this. I didn't raise you to be irresponsible and neglect your family and neglect your responsibilities. And so I was consumed with this fear. And Trevor had to constantly try and talk me down and calm me down and reassure me that it was okay. And really, we took some steps to help ease the fear and make the transition and make the decision easier. So one big thing is we have a really good emergency fund built up. So that's one thing I would recommend. If you have not yet quit your 9-to-5 job and you're thinking about quitting your 9-to-5 job, get your ducks in a row. Make sure that you have a really solid emergency fund built up, because when those moments of fear and panic and freak out come, you can remember, okay, I have this much money in the bank. This will last me this many months. I am fine. I am safe. And that's really saved me these past few months. When I have a freak out moment, I can fall back on that. Okay, I'm safe. So we had that emergency fund built up. We went out and got a home equity line of credit before I quit, so they could see the stable income, the stable job. So we were approved for that line of credit. So that's also another emergency in case we need it, something to fall back on. So we had those lined up. We priced out all the insurance. So health insurance, life insurance, all those things, that you get supplemented by your company. We priced all that out. We sat down and we mapped out, okay, what are we spending now? What do we think if we cut back, we could realistically spend? What, now that we have to add health insurance onto this, what's this going to look like? So sit down with your spouse or your partner and map out exactly what your expenses are. You need to know what you're working with so that you can make that smart strategic decision when you do decide to quit your job. Because there's nothing will bring on the fear faster than if it's just randomly one day you just decide, I'm done, and you go quit. That will bring on immense amounts of fear. So have these things lined up. Let me think of a couple other things that might help you guys. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Let me know if you have questions on, anything that I was struggling with or things that helped make the decision. Health insurance, that seems to be a common question that people ask a lot. Health insurance, when we were pricing it out, if we just went to the marketplace and got typical insurance, I think Trevor priced it out at like $1,500 a month for our family. And it was like, oh, we cannot make that happen. We can't do it. And so randomly, I was talking with a neighbor and she was telling me about this. I believe they're called health shares, and Trevor, comment below, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but they had their insurance through this health share. So it's kind of like alternative insurance, but it works very similar to traditional health insurance. And excuse me if you're outside of the United States, this really only applies within the United States. But so we researched it and we started looking at different places, and we found insurance for our entire family for $500 a month through Liberty Health Share. So if you are concerned about health insurance at all, I would highly recommend looking up Liberty Health Share. The deductibles are great. The coverage is great. There's some things that different hoops you have to go through if you didn't have the traditional insurance. There's a few different things you have to know and navigate. But for the most part, it is amazing coverage for the price, and it's saving us $1,000 a month, which is insane and really massive. So if the health insurance is an issue for you and that's a big fear and a concern, like I know it is for a lot of people, be sure to check out Liberty or I think like Samaritan Care, maybe. There's a few. I think if you Google health share plans, you should find a few different ones. Let's see. Oh, I want to talk about feelings of fear, doubt, and overwhelm, and having kind of a plan against those, because what's inevitably going to happen for any entrepreneur. Now, this applies whether you're in your corporate job in a 9-to-5 and you're doing a side hustle, whether you're out of it, whether you've been an entrepreneur for years. There's always going to be those moments of fear, of doubt, of overwhelm, of panic, of freak out. We all have them and we continue to have them. And it's normal. First and foremost, it's normal. I think one big thing that I realized recently, my dad has been self-employed for years. And he recently told me that yeah, like I still sometimes wonder if I'm cut out for this. And that was really eye-opening to me. I thought, okay, someone who is so successful, and he's been so successful, and someone that I have looked up to my whole life, and he's this amazing role model for me, still has moments of doubt. And that was really eye-opening to me. So I thought, okay, this is normal. We all have these moments. So I think it's important as an entrepreneur to first and foremost know that that's normal. And it doesn't mean that you're not cut out to be an entrepreneur. That is not at all what that means. But there's ways to deal with these moments of fear, these moments of panic. And I think it's different for everyone, how everyone deals with that, how everyone handles it. I'll share my story. Maybe my process can benefit you. So over the past few months, I've tried a lot of different strategies, going on morning walks, doing yoga, doing different meditations. And here's kind of my morning routine that I found works. So when I wake up, I go make my coffee. And while my coffee is brewing, I sit down on my couch, and it's pretty dark because I'm usually up by 5:30. And I've got my little salt lamp on next to me on the couch. So I've got this nice warm glow. I set a timer on my phone for 5 minutes, and I sit in silence for 5 minutes. Now, I am very much type A, very much like my brain never shuts down. So it's like going crazy. But I still try to just sit in silence, let all the thoughts come and go, and just try not to force anything. And those 5 minutes are always so amazing, because even if my brain is constantly going, it's kind of profound ideas that come through. And so I take those 5 minutes in silence. Once that's up, I open up my OneNote app on my phone, where I have all of my affirmations written. So these are affirmation statements, visualization statements, things that I want to create, things that I want to happen, things that I want to feel and think. And I just read through those. And inevitably, that always puts a big smile on my face and shifts the energy to just this joyful, excitement, energetic feeling. And then when I'm done with that, I shut down my phone and close my eyes and do about 2 minutes of visualization. So I try to visualize the day. What is it that I want to accomplish that day? What do I want to create? How do I want to feel? What does the day look like? And I just visualize going through that and how that looks to me if each thing is done successfully, what that looks like. The whole process takes about 10 minutes. That's it. So then I grab my coffee and I come downstairs to this area and go to work. So I'm usually downstairs by about 6 a.m. And I've noticed that taking that 10 minutes, while it was really hard at first because, as a business owner, you feel like every second counts, and every second that's not like productive and getting stuff done, you feel like almost like you're wasting your time. But I've noticed that those 10 minutes are some of the most important 10 minutes of my day, because it really sets the tone for the day. And it kind of realigns the energy that I'm feeling and kind of sets me up for positivity and excitement and joy for the rest of the day. So whatever it is that works for you, I highly recommend some sort of short morning routine to really set the tone for your day. There's an amazing book called The Miracle Morning that you can check out. So Hal Elrod is the author, The Miracle Morning. And actually, I'm going to write that down in the comments. And that book is really, really great about routines. So I've adapted my routine based on that. His routine is like an hour long, and I have yet to be able to commit to that. I don't know about you, but I can't commit to a full 1 hour routine. But it's a great read and really gives you some great ideas on some different ways that you can set up your morning for success. One other thing I want to address is, what is it that I now have the freedom to do? Because, the whole point of this was to have freedom that I couldn't do when I was working a 9-to-5 job. So I'll give you a couple examples. One just happened, I think it was yesterday. It was 2 days ago on Wednesday. I picked my daughter up from preschool. It was 12:30. It was a gorgeous day. It was like 75 degrees out, sunny, beautiful. And so we went to this park right by my house, and we played on the playground for a bit. And then we walked over, there's some waterfalls. So we walked over to the waterfalls, and we were the only ones there. It was completely silent. Well, except for the water and the birds and the crickets. And we sat right on the edge on the rocks, and I was handing her leaves as she was throwing the leaves in and watching them, go down the waterfalls. And we probably did that for 10, 15 minutes. And I just sat there and looked around, and I thought, oh my gosh, I am so blessed. I am so lucky. This is the most amazing thing. I cannot believe at 12:30 on a Wednesday afternoon, I am sitting next to a waterfall with my daughter, just enjoying this. And then we went back home. I put her in her room for a nap, and then I got a few more hours of work in. And to me, just that 20 to 30 minute break at the park next to the waterfall, playing on the playground, was the most amazing thing for me. And, no, it's not traveling all over the world and working from, all these exotic countries, where I think that's a lot of people's story. A lot of people are like, oh, look, we travel and we do all these amazing things. And to me, that's not what freedom looks like. What freedom looks like is being able to take my kids to the park in the middle of the day if I want to, and soak up the sun and enjoy just the beauty of life and the beauty of nature. And so I also want to encourage you that I know sometimes it can be discouraging when you're on the internet and everyone's talking about these grandiose freedom lifestyles where they travel and they have fancy cars and fancy homes, but that's not what a freedom lifestyle looks like for everybody. So, your freedom life may look different. And so that's what I want to kind of bring to you over this series of these Freedom Friday Lives, is stories from individual entrepreneurs. And so hopefully each story that I bring to you and each entrepreneur that comes on and that I interview, you can get some great tips and tricks from them on how to build your business. Maybe you can learn how they were able to build their business and get some tips that you can replicate in your own business. But more than anything, I want you to get some inspiration and to get to really feel like you're not in this alone. There are hundreds and hundreds of people out there doing this right along with you, and that we're all building our businesses together, and together we're stronger, and that building this freedom lifestyle is possible. Because what's the hardest thing for me is we are surrounded by this society of you work a 9-to-5 job, you provide for your family, you have this stable income, and this is kind of like the life path that you follow. And if you don't follow it, you're irresponsible and you're crazy. And, and it's not stable. And so I want to bring you stories that kind of debunk that and say, no, just because this is the way society says that you should do it, or that's how people have been doing it forever, it doesn't mean it's the only way. And if you feel called for more, if you feel like you were made for more than a 9-to-5 job, I want you to feel that reassurance and that inspiration that it is possible. And yes, you can do this. And so hopefully each week these stories will bring you that reassurance, that inspiration, that motivation, that, I want you to leave these videos feeling joy and energized and just ready to go kick some ass. So I've been talking for almost 30 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I can't wait to bring you our next interview next Friday. So next Friday, it's going to be at noon. I'll send out more details to my email list. So if you are not one of my email subscribers, or you're not part of my Facebook group, make sure you join. If you just head over to my website, you'll find a way to jump on my email list. I'll also put a link down below to my Facebook group, so you can join that if you want. It's a team of one biz owners. So it's all people who are running their business on their own, trying to make it work. And yeah, there's a link below in the comments for that group. If you want to join the group, I'll also put updates on there on when you can join these lives and who I'll be interviewing and who's coming up next. So thank you so much for joining live. Let's see. I know we had Belle Patterson and Beth Hahn. So thank you so much, you guys, for joining and listening. I hope you liked it. And I hope you enjoyed this time together. So I'll see you guys next week.